When an avoidant truly cares about you, how do they show love when expressing it feels like exposing themselves? Most people miss the signs completely. They're waiting for verbal declarations, romantic gestures, or obvious displays of affection that fit conventional relationship scripts. Meanwhile, their avoidant partner might be showing profound love through a completely different language, one that requires understanding their unique emotional architecture to recognize. The challenge isn't that avoidants don't feel love deeply. Often they feel it more intensely than people realize, which is precisely why they struggle to express it directly. Their early experiences taught them that emotional vulnerability creates danger. So they develop sophisticated ways to communicate care that don't trigger their internal alarm systems about being too exposed or dependent. Once you understand their actual language of love, you'll start noticing gestures that you previously overlooked or misinterpreted. What looked like indifference might actually be protection. What seemed like distance might be their way of preserving something precious. What felt like withholding might be their most genuine form of giving. The first layer appears through what they don't do rather than what they do. While most people express care through action and words, avoidants often express it through careful restraint and respect for boundaries. They protect both of you by not pressuring, not overwhelming with emotional intensity, and not making their feelings your responsibility to manage. This might seem passive or uninvolved, but for someone whose early experiences taught them that emotional expression leads to rejection or engulfment, choosing not to burden you with their internal intensity represents profound care. They're shielding the relationship from the chaos they fear their emotions might create. Consider their restraint when they don't call multiple times a day, despite thinking about you constantly. Notice how they avoid immediately sharing every emotional reaction to your interactions, even though they have deep responses. Observe how they refrain from asking for constant reassurance about the relationship. Despite needing it themselves, their restraint becomes their gift to you. They manage their own emotional intensity independently, so you don't have to. They process fears and insecurities alone, so the relationship doesn't become about managing their anxiety. They create space for you to be yourself without the pressure of constantly tending to their emotional needs. This form of love through restraint often goes completely unrecognized because it doesn't match cultural expectations. We're taught that love means pursuit, emotional sharing, and visible demonstration. But avoidant love starts with the conscious choice not to make their internal world your problem to solve. The second layer reveals itself through practical demonstration rather than emotional declaration. Avoidants show love by quietly solving problems, handling responsibilities, and making your life easier without fanfare or expectation of gratitude. Their care manifests through action because actions feel safer and more controllable than emotional expressions. Notice when items you mentioned needing simply appear without discussion. Pay attention to how practical matters that affect your life get handled behind the scenes. Watch for the ways they quietly address things that stress you, often before you even realize they've noticed. This practical love often gets dismissed as basic partnership rather than recognized as emotional expression. But for avoidance, taking care of concrete needs feels more genuine and sustainable than romantic gestures that might feel performative to their system. They demonstrate love through reliability in small ways, consistently over time, following through on commitments, showing up when they say they will, handling responsibilities without needing reminders or management. This consistency becomes their version of romantic devotion. Even though it might not feel romantic to partners who need more obvious emotional demonstration, the reliability extends to emotional consistency as well. They won't create drama, play games, or use emotional manipulation to get their needs met. They won't punish you for needing space or having other relationships. They won't make you responsible for regulating their moods or managing their insecurities. This emotional steadiness represents how they show love even when it might feel like emotional absence to partners who need more visible engagement. Peeling back another layer reveals how avoidants express love through the gift of autonomy. While other attachment styles might show care by wanting to merge lives completely, avoidants demonstrate love by supporting your independence and individual growth. They don't try to change you, fix you, or make you dependent on them for emotional regulation. Watch how they encourage you to maintain friendships, pursue interests, and make decisions based on what you want rather than what they want. Notice their lack of jealousy or possessiveness about your other relationships. This represents profound respect and care for your whole self, rather than just the parts that serve them. This respect for autonomy might feel like indifference to partners used to more possessive forms of love. But for avoidance, loving someone means wanting them to thrive as individuals rather than trying to absorb them into their own emotional world. They express care by not trying to control or limit you. They also show love by sharing space without demanding emotional labor. They can be present with you without needing constant interaction or stimulation. They're comfortable with companionable silence. They don't need you to entertain them or manage the atmosphere when you're together. This ability to simply coexist peacefully demonstrates that your presence itself holds value for them. The fourth layer becomes visible through selective vulnerability and inclusion. Avoidants are naturally private people who share very little of their internal world with most people. Their decision to share thoughts, concerns, or personal information with you offers something incredibly precious and rare. These moments might not look dramatic or feel particularly intimate if you're expecting emotional intensity. They might mention a work problem matter-of-factly, reference something from their childhood casually, or ask for your opinion about a decision. These seemingly casual sharings actually represent significant acts of trust and inclusion. The fact that they include you in their thought process, seek your perspective, or let you see behind their usual composed exterior shows that you matter to them. They're allowing you into their private mental space, which often represents the most intimate thing they can offer. Pay attention to information they volunteer about their day, their thoughts about situations, or their perspectives on things happening in their life. Each piece of information represents a small act of trust and connection. They're choosing to include you in their inner world, which becomes their version of intimacy. They also demonstrate love by remembering things you've told them and referencing them later. Follow-up questions about situations you've mentioned or remembered details about your life that matter to you show that they pay attention and care about your experiences, even when they don't always express this attention overtly. The fifth layer appears through their choice to consistently choose you without being dramatic about it. Avoidants don't typically make grand gestures or declarations about commitment. Instead, they show love through ongoing choices to prioritize you and the relationship in practical ways. They make time for you in their schedule consistently. They include you in planning and decision-making. They consider your needs and preferences when making choices that affect both of you. They invest in things that benefit the relationship long-term. These ongoing choices demonstrate commitment more reliably than passionate declarations that might fluctuate with mood or circumstances. Their love appears in how they structure their life to include you sustainably rather than dramatically. They create routines and patterns that accommodate the relationship. They make financial decisions that consider your partnership. They plan their time and energy in ways that leave space for connection. This practical integration of your relationship into their life structure shows long-term commitment, introducing you to important people in their life, including you in significant events, or making decisions based on the assumption that you'll be part of their future demonstrates love through integration rather than declaration. They're showing that you've become part of how they see their life unfolding. Reaching the deepest layer reveals how avoidants show love through protection and preservation of the relationship itself. They often love the relationship enough to protect it from their own emotional intensity, their fears, and their tendency to sabotage good things when they become too important. Their work on personal issues independently rather than making them your problem protects the relationship. Managing anxiety about intimacy without pulling away completely represents choosing love over fear. Resisting the impulse to create distance when things feel too good means actively fighting their programming to preserve something they value. This internal work they do to stay present and available might be completely invisible to you, but it represents enormous effort and care. They're literally rewiring learned responses because the relationship matters enough to do the hard work of changing ingrained patterns. They also show love by tolerating discomfort for the sake of connection. Staying present during emotional conversations when every instinct tells them to flee demonstrates love. Continuing to show up when intimacy feels scary means choosing the relationship over their comfort zone. Sometimes the most profound expression of avoidant love is simply their continued presence and participation in the relationship despite their natural inclination toward independence and self-protection. The fact that they choose to stay engaged rather than retreating to the safety of isolation often represents the deepest love they can express. But there's another crucial dimension that most people completely miss. Beyond recognizing their expressions of care, you need to understand the internal struggle that makes these expressions so meaningful and difficult for them. Every gesture of love from an avoidant represents a victory over their deepest programming about emotional safety. Choosing to stay present during difficult conversations instead of shutting down completely means fighting against years of conditioning. Sharing personal information instead of keeping everything private means overriding internal alarms about vulnerability. Making space for your emotions without trying to fix or dismiss them means actively working against their impulse to protect themselves from emotional complexity. Understanding the effort behind their expressions helps you appreciate not just what they do, but how much it costs them emotionally. This isn't about excusing limitations. It's about recognizing that their gestures of care often require more internal work than might be visible on the surface. This internal struggle explains why avoidant expressions of love can be inconsistent. They might be wonderfully present and caring one day, then more distant the next. This fluctuation isn't necessarily about their feelings changing. It's often about their capacity to manage vulnerability based on overall stress levels and emotional resources. Learning to see this pattern as normal rather than problematic helps you respond to their inconsistency with patience rather than anxiety. Understanding that withdrawal after closeness often involves needing to regulate rather than rejection allows you to give them space without taking it personally. The temporal aspect of avoidant love also differs significantly from other attachment styles. While anxious partners might express love intensely in the moment, avoidant love often shows up as sustained reliability over long periods. They demonstrate care through consistency across months and years, rather than through passionate peaks of emotional expression. This long-term approach can feel underwhelming initially, but often proves more stable and dependable over time. Their love doesn't fluctuate dramatically with mood, circumstances, or relationship challenges. It's built on genuine appreciation and respect that develops slowly but tends to deepen rather than fade with time. Recognizing this temporal difference helps you adjust expectations about relationship progression. Instead of looking for increasing intensity of emotional expression over time, you can appreciate increasing depth of practical integration and subtle intimacy. Their love grows through shared experiences and proven reliability rather than through escalating romantic gestures. Another layer appears through how they handle conflict and disagreement. Instead of using emotional intensity to resolve issues, they often show love by approaching problems logically and looking for practical solutions that work for both people. They don't typically fight dirty, bring up past issues, or use emotional manipulation. During disagreements, they usually focus on the specific issue rather than attacking your character or making it about relationship compatibility. They're more likely to need space to process before engaging constructively, but they typically return to address the issue rather than avoiding it indefinitely. This approach can feel cold or detached if you're used to more emotionally intense dynamics, but their ability to separate issues from emotions often leads to more effective problem solving and less damage to the overall relationship. They show love by protecting the relationship from unnecessary drama and keeping conflicts focused on finding solutions. Their conflict style also reflects deep respect for both people's autonomy. They don't try to win arguments by overwhelming you emotionally or making you responsible for their feelings about the disagreement. They present their perspective and listen to yours without trying to control the outcome through emotional pressure. How avoidants handle your emotions when you're upset also reveals their unique love language. Instead of immediately trying to fix your feelings or make you feel better, they often show love by simply staying present without taking your emotions personally or trying to change them. During times when you're sad, angry, or frustrated, they might not offer lots of comforting words or physical affection, but they'll often stay nearby, continue their normal activities calmly, and remain available if you need something practical. This steady presence in the face of emotional intensity becomes their way of showing that your feelings don't threaten them or the relationship. They demonstrate love by not abandoning you during emotional moments, even though emotional intensity triggers their own discomfort. They show care by not trying to talk you out of your feelings or minimize your experience. They express affection by trusting that you can handle your emotions without their intervention while remaining available for practical support. This approach can feel insufficient if you need lots of emotional comfort and reassurance when upset, but it can also feel incredibly secure to have someone who doesn't get overwhelmed by your emotions or make your feelings about them. Their calm presence often provides stability that helps you regulate your own emotions more effectively. Understanding avoidant love also requires recognizing their relationship with time and future planning. They often show commitment not through dramatic declarations about the future, but through practical decisions that assume your continued presence in their life. Making financial commitments that affect both of you, choosing living situations based on your partnership, or making career decisions that consider your relationship expresses long-term commitment without necessarily verbalizing it. Including you in practical planning for trips, major purchases, or life changes shows that they see you as a permanent part of their life. This practical approach to future planning might not feel romantic, but it often represents more genuine commitment than passionate promises that might change with emotional states. Their willingness to make concrete decisions based on your partnership demonstrates a level of trust and investment that goes beyond temporary feelings. They also show love through how they speak about you to others. Avoidants are typically private people who don't share personal information freely. Their positive mentions of you to friends, family, or colleagues make a statement about your importance in their life. Pay attention to how they refer to you in social situations, whether they include you in conversations about their life, and how they respond when others ask about your relationship. Their willingness to acknowledge your significance publicly, even in subtle ways, often indicates deep care and commitment. How they integrate you into their existing relationships also shows love, making space for you in their friendships, including you in family interactions, or navigating social situations as a team demonstrates that you belong in their world. This integration often happens slowly and might not feel dramatic, but it represents significant trust and commitment. Understanding their relationship with personal space and how they navigate physical intimacy reveals another aspect. They often show affection through respecting your physical boundaries while gradually allowing you into their own space in ways that feel comfortable to them. Their initiation of physical contact, free sharing of personal space, or increasing comfort with casual physical affection over time expresses trust and care. Their physical expressions of love often develop slowly but tend to feel genuine rather than performative because they're not forcing themselves into physical intimacy that feels overwhelming. They might show love by remembering your preferences for physical affection and respecting them consistently. They demonstrate care by not pressuring you for more physical intimacy than you want, while also not withholding affection as punishment or manipulation. Their approach to physical connection often feels steady and reliable rather than intense or dramatic. Understanding their physical love language helps you appreciate subtle gestures like choosing to sit near you, casual touches that don't demand response, or their comfort with physical proximity during everyday activities. These small physical expressions often indicate significant trust and affection from someone who carefully manages their personal space. The financial aspect of avoidant love also deserves attention. They often show care through financial responsibility, practical generosity, and long-term financial planning that considers your partnership. This might not feel romantic, but it often indicates deep commitment and care for your shared future. Handling financial responsibilities reliably, contributing fairly to shared expenses, or making financial decisions that benefit both of you expresses love through practical care. Generosity with resources in ways that make your life easier or better shows affection through action rather than words. Their approach to money often reflects their values about partnership and responsibility. They typically don't use financial resources as tools for control or manipulation. They show love by being trustworthy with shared resources and considering your financial well-being in their decisions. This financial reliability can feel unromantic compared to more dramatic gestures, but it often provides security and stability that supports the relationship's long-term health. Their willingness to share resources and plan financially for your partnership demonstrates commitment and care in practical ways. The career and life goal aspect involves how they navigate individual ambitions while considering your relationship. They often show love by pursuing their goals in ways that don't compromise your partnership or by including your well-being in their professional decisions. Turning down opportunities that would be harmful to your relationship, choosing career paths that allow for sustainable partnership, or making professional decisions that consider your needs and goals expresses love through practical choices. They demonstrate care by not expecting you to sacrifice your ambitions for theirs while also not abandoning their own goals for the relationship. This balanced approach to individual goals and partnership often feels more sustainable than dramatic sacrifices or demands for sacrifice. They show love by working to create a life that allows both people to thrive individually while building something meaningful together. Their communication about goals and ambitions also reveals love, including you in thinking about their future, asking for your input on important decisions, or sharing their concerns and excitement about their path expresses trust in partnership. They show care by considering how their choices affect you without making you responsible for their decisions. How avoidants handle traditions, celebrations, and special occasions also reflects their unique love language. They might not initiate elaborate celebrations or remember every anniversary, but they often show love by participating willingly in traditions that matter to you or creating low-key rituals that work for both of you. Remembering things that are important to you, making effort to participate in celebrations, even when they feel awkward about emotional expression, or creating simple traditions that honor your relationship shows care in ways that feel authentic to them. Their approach to special occasions often emphasizes practical consideration over dramatic gesture. They might show love by planning something you actually want to do rather than what they think should be romantic. They demonstrate care by making occasions about your genuine preferences rather than about meeting external expectations. This practical approach to celebration can feel disappointing if you need more obvious romantic gestures, but it often results in experiences that actually reflect your relationship and preferences rather than generic romantic scripts that might not fit your dynamic. The health and well-being aspect involves how they care for themselves and support your well-being without being controlling or intrusive. They often show love by maintaining their own physical and mental health so they can be reliable partners, and by supporting your health choices without trying to manage them. Taking care of their own stress levels, maintaining healthy habits, and addressing their own emotional needs independently shows love by being sustainable partners who don't drain your energy with unmanaged issues. They demonstrate care by not making their well-being your responsibility while also being present and available when you need support. Their support for your health and well-being often comes through practical assistance rather than emotional management. They might help you maintain routines that support your goals, remove obstacles that make healthy choices harder, or simply respect your decisions about your own body and mind without trying to control or improve them. This hands-off approach to well-being can feel unsupportive if you need more active encouragement and involvement, but it often provides space for you to develop your own healthy relationship with self-care while knowing you have reliable support available when you need it. Understanding all these layers requires patience and attention to subtlety. Their expressions of care don't usually announce themselves dramatically or demand immediate recognition. They show up consistently in small ways that create stability and security over time. Learning to receive this type of love often requires adjusting your own expectations and developing appreciation for different forms of care and commitment. It means valuing reliability over intensity, actions over words, and practical consideration over romantic gesture. This doesn't mean accepting less love than you need to feel valued and secure. It means recognizing when you're receiving substantial love that doesn't match conventional expressions versus when your emotional needs genuinely aren't being met in the relationship. The challenge for partners of avoidance is learning to recognize and receive love in this quieter, more subtle language. It requires developing appreciation for consistency over intensity, actions over words, and presence over passion. It means valuing the choice to stay and work on things rather than expecting dramatic declarations or obvious romantic gestures. Understanding this different love language doesn't mean accepting less than you need to feel loved and valued. It means recognizing when you're actually receiving substantial love that doesn't match conventional expressions versus when you're genuinely not getting your emotional needs met in the relationship. Some people discover that they actually prefer this steadier, less emotionally intense form of love once they learn to recognize it. Others realize they need more verbal affirmation and emotional expression than most avoidants can comfortably provide. Both discoveries are valuable because they help you make informed decisions about compatibility. The key is distinguishing between an avoidant who is showing love in their natural language versus someone who is simply not that invested in the relationship. Genuine avoidant love is consistent, reliable, and demonstrated through sustained effort and consideration, even if it's not verbally expressed or romantically packaged. Learning to see avoidant love for what it is rather than what it isn't can transform your experience of the relationship. Once you start recognizing their practical care, protective restraint, selective sharing, and consistent presence as expressions of deep affection, you might discover that you've been receiving more love than you realized. The most profound shift happens when you understand that their way of loving might actually be more sustainable and reliable than more dramatic expressions that fluctuate with emotion or circumstance. Their love is built on choice, respect, and genuine care for your well-being rather than on emotional dependency or romantic fantasy. This doesn't mean their way of loving is better or worse than other styles. It means it's different. And recognizing the difference allows you to receive the love that's actually being offered rather than missing it while waiting for love that might never come in the form you expect. Appreciating an avoidance love language isn't just about improving your relationship with them. You're developing the ability to recognize and value different forms of care and commitment, which can enrich all your relationships and help you see love in places you might have previously overlooked. The goal is developing the ability to see and appreciate love when it shows up differently than you expected, while also maintaining clarity about what you need to feel truly cared for and valued in a relationship. Have you learned to recognize these subtle ways that avoidants express love? Which one surprised you the most? Share in the comments what avoidant love language you've experienced in your relationships. If this helped you understand how love might be showing up differently than you expected, like this video and subscribe for more insights about recognizing different expressions of care across attachment styles. Thanks for watching.